Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. So good. That smokiness of the lap song. So good. So good, guys. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee. Today is going to be the ultimate guide to online gaming using Starlink. Less lag, more fun. So we're going to get into this. It's going to be a little bit of a longer video. I might timestamp things so you can kind of skip around as needed. But you guys have been asking me for this for quite some time, and I've been working on it for over 2 weeks, I think it is now, looking at different games, testing things out, testing out different alternatives to things that I thought were going to work well, and then they ended up not. And I think I got something really great for you guys. And if you go through this and you find any value in it and you appreciate it, please share this video with your friends, family, other colleagues, people that are into Starlink, into gaming, because this video did take a long time. Throw it a thumbs up if you enjoy it. If not, it's okay too. Throw it a thumbs down. Tell me why you didn't like it. But if you did, once again, throw it a thumbs up and share it. Now, before I get into this whole gaming thing, I want to say that some of this merch came in. You see this? Life After Adobe. You know, I did the Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord series. So the entire studio has been running on alternatives to Adobe for the last couple of years. Well, this is the shirt. I will be doing a Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord Part 2 very soon. I've been working on it in the background for the last couple of months. There's a lot that goes into these, checking out all the different alternatives out there. Also, besides this shirt, I got some tea time mugs in, guys. Check that out. It's kind of bright, but that's all right. Tea time, guys. Tea time. I love this design. It is the coolest. Anyways, we're going to be getting into a lot of other merch. So if you go over to my site, JCristina.com, then go into the store, you'll be able to pick these up if you so desire. Now, once again, there's going to be a lot more coming soon. So let's dive right into this. I'm going to base this around the actual system itself and then into the gaming system. So it'll be like two different portions of it, and it all works together. All right. So there's not one thing that's going to just give you the best gaming on your Starlink. It's a whole bunch of things that I painstakingly put together for you guys. Anyway, starting out with the router itself. The router is a 2.4 gigahertz as well as 5 gigahertz router, and it determines which one it wants to give you, or which signal or which band it wants to give you based on how far away you are and other factors. Well, we don't want it to do that. We don't want anything automatic. We want to manually say, I want to be on the 5G, the 5 gigahertz network, and not the 2.4. Period. End of story. So what we're going to need to do is split the network. And it's very easy. That's all you have to do is go into your Starlink application and then click on settings. From there, you will need to log into your account to be able to make any changes. But once you're logged in, you can then click on split 2.4/5 gigahertz. This will divide your Wi-Fi into two different connections. And now you're able to rename them. For me, I left my 2.4 gigahertz connection as Bevel, as that's what I called my dish, Mr. Bevel. And if you want to know why, check in one of the old videos. I think one of the first videos. It's kind of funny. Anyways, Bevel is the 2.4 gigahertz, whereas Bevel 5 gigahertz is obviously the 5 gigahertz network. Now, as soon as you do that, it's going to log you out. So using your phone, you're going to have to go back into the new network. Log into your 5 gigahertz network, and now you're back up and running. Now, I did some speed tests to see what this looks like. The system is running pretty quick. It's not as quick as it was when I first got the unit itself. I think that they have throttled things just a little bit, but that's just my opinion. I did a video on that also. Check that out. Matter of fact, if you want to see anything Starlink that I've done, I've actually put together a playlist. It is a Starlink playlist. Go there and you'll be able to see all of the helpful how-tos, tips, tricks, and everything else that I've put together for you guys for Starlink. All right. So why did we do this in the first place? Well, the 2.4 gigahertz band is a little bit slower than the 5 gigahertz band. So we want to use 5 gigahertz. The reason why 2.4 is a little bit slower, it reaches further and it can blast through walls a lot better. So the issue is if you have a home that's built with, for example, metal studs, it'll be a little bit harder for the 5 gigahertz signal to go through those. Now, if you have wood studs, it's a little bit easier. But remember, 2.4 will be able to get through those studs, get through the walls a lot further, and its range is further. That being said, we don't want to use that band because it's slower, right? We want as fast as possible. So we want to connect to the 5 gigahertz band, period. And that's what we're doing. That's why I'm connecting to Bevel 5 gigahertz. Once again, it is the faster of the bands. Now, there's another benefit to splitting up these bands from the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz. One of the biggest benefits is now we can segregate traffic a little bit. What does that mean? Well, anything that is less important to you, for example, a TV, an iPad, a Kindle, maybe some video cameras, or maybe your kid's laptop that always wants to play Fortnite and just crush your network. No, put them on the 2.4 gigahertz. It's slightly slower, which is okay, but it also keeps the traffic in that specific band. So once again, segregating these networks and being on the 5 gigahertz for ourselves allow us to have that band that is less congested, has less data going through it, less devices connected to it. So the saturated network can be the 2.4, which we don't care about as much. Now, there's another way of doing this when we're talking about network and network cables and Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 8, but I'll get into that in just a minute. Now, like I said, the only downside to the 5 gigahertz network is it doesn't travel as far. It's faster, but it doesn't travel as far. That means that your gaming system or your gaming console needs to be closer to the Starlink router. Now, if this is not a possibility and you cannot get it closer and you're noticing that your Wi-Fi signal is a little bit low, at that point, I would suggest moving into a mesh network. Now, I did an entire video, once again, go to that playlist, on building a mesh network for your Starlink system. Very, very detailed instructions, and a lot of people have used my method and said that it works fantastic. So definitely go and check that out. Now, if a mesh network is out of your budget, because some of them are not cheap, the one that I put together was relatively low cost, but they're not cheap. And if you do not have the budget for it, some people have opted to using like a 5 gigahertz booster, a signal booster, or a repeater, or an extender. I am not a fan. I would not recommend these. And people say, why is that? Well, all of these means of extending your Wi-Fi almost always increases latency. Now, people are like, why in the hell is that? Well, basically how it works. Crap in, crap out. If you have a crappy signal going to your booster or to your repeater or extender, it's going to extend or repeat a crappy signal, right? That's number one. But number two, the unit itself has to process the signal anyways. So when you send it the signal, it says, okay, here's the signal. It does whatever it has to do. Then it has to send it back out. This causes even more latency. So once again, I am not a fan of extenders or repeaters. Now, there are other options. One of the options is to place your Starlink router into bypass mode and then install a Wi-Fi 6AX multi-band gaming router. These things are expensive, but they are really powerful and they push the signal a lot further. And they're multi-band, tri-band, quad band. There's a lot going on with these, and they're much quicker. And not only do you get faster speeds, but you also get a little bit extra security. Now, with these high-end routers, you can also switch out the antennas. So you can take the antennas that come with the unit itself, switch them out for like a high-gain antenna to push your signal even further. This would be my recommendation, the absolute best Wi-Fi that you can possibly get. I'm not a fan of using Wi-Fi for gaming, but if you absolutely need it and want it for your Starlink system, going this route and actually bypassing it completely and using a high-end gaming router is your best option. Now, the very best option, of course, is to hardwire your game setup. Now, that means using a Cat 5 or a Cat 6 or maybe a Cat 8 Ethernet cable and directly plugging it from your Starlink router into your gaming PC or console. Now, if you have a Starlink router that's a Generation 1, well, this is pretty easy because on the back of your Generation 1 router is an auxiliary port. That is an Ethernet port. So you could just simply plug your cable from that port directly into your game console or computer and you're done. you will get the best speed and the lowest latency. Now, if you have a Generation 2, it's a little bit different because it no longer has that auxiliary port on the back. You will need to buy an Ethernet adapter. Now, that's okay because it only costs about 20 bucks over on the Starlink website. It's kind of a pain because you're going to have to wait like a month for it. So I recommend you ordering one of these Ethernet adapters when you order your system or as soon as your system is sent to you. All right, because it's going to take a little while for you to get it. Now, if you decided to bypass your Starlink router altogether and you're using a gaming router, that's okay because you're going to simply do the exact same thing and plug a Cat5, Cat6, or Cat8 cable from that gaming router directly into your PC or gaming console. Now, there's something that you need to remember. Your in-game latency is directly affected by other devices that are on your network. So if you have someone in the house that's trying to stream a 4K video, it will greatly impact your ping. It will greatly impact your latency. Not great. No bueno, guys. No bueno. So if someone is on your network downloading a 4K video and streaming it, it's going to cause some issues while you're gaming. So what I would suggest, like I was talking to you about at the beginning of this video, you need to be able to manage your system or manage your data or shape your data. We did it wirelessly by breaking up the bands, so you have the 2.4 band and a 5.0 band. It's okay. It's a means to get around things. But a true way to do it with, for example, an Ethernet connection or a hardwire connection is by using a managed switch. Now, in the comments below or in this description, I will give you a list of the products that I'm currently using. Check out that managed switch. It's really low cost. And I use it and it works out great. You can do all kinds of QoS stuff, which is quality of service, and that's exactly what we need to data shape. Now, why are we going to data shape here? Once again, the other person that's on your network that is downloading that 4K, we do not want them to get priority over you. So by data shaping with our managed switch, we can now say, well, everyone on this port is going to get X amount of bandwidth, period. And everyone on this port, let's say your port, gets full priority access. So when they're downloading, once again, what happened with the 2.4 gigahertz, when they're downloading this 4K video, it might spool up a little bit. They might have some artifacting or whatnot while you're using the majority of the data. And that's what we want to happen. Once again, a managed switch is your friend. Now, before we start our game, there's a couple of things that I want you to do, and these will help out a lot. And some people just look over this, and they really shouldn't. Number one, reboot your router. Just reboot it. That's it. Sometimes it gets all clustered with a ton of DNS stuff, and things get a little bit off, or maybe it just updated or halfway updated, and stuff just gets off. Reboot, usually the ISP, if you're using Starlink, they will give you a brand new IP address. The same thing happens with other service providers, and things are fresh. So reboot your router. I would suggest rebooting your router once a week, once every other week anyways. But before starting your game, reboot your router. Then reboot your computer. People forget about this. I don't know why. Your computer goes into sleep mode all the time. You almost never reboot it, right? It just falls asleep, and then you wake it up by moving your mouse or tapping on a key. Well, things start getting built up. There might be a memory leak going on where a certain program is just hogging the memory, and then when you go and take a look, you're like, oh, why is this thing using all of my resources? Reboot. Get rid of everything out of your memory, and now things are fresh. Reboot that computer. Next, what you want to do is turn off your Windows Updater. So many people leave this thing on and they're in the middle of a game and all of a sudden they're like lagging. They're like, what the hell's going on? And it's because your Windows is downloading the latest and greatest whatever, or some patch of some kind. Don't allow it to do it. Go into your Windows settings and turn off the auto update feature until you're done with your game. This also holds true with Windows location services. Shut them off. People are amazed on how much resources, how massive the improvement can be by just simply turning off location services. Turn them off. If you want to turn them back on after, that's fine, but turn them off before you game. The other thing is Steam. A lot of us use Steam for our games, right? But what they forget is to turn off auto update. And for some reason, Steam just loves to do updates while you're gaming, or something is going on that's important. You're about ready to take first place, and all of a sudden it doesn't update. And now everything's lagging. All right? turn off the auto update feature in Steam before you game. It will help, trust me. Also, antiviruses and malware. They're important, of course. They're not as important today with Windows 10, Windows 11, but a lot of people run antiviruses, anti-malware. Shut them down. They are resource hogs. They use a ton of memory, a ton of resources. Shut them down while you're gaming and then turn them back on. The other thing is VPNs. I've talked about VPNs in the past. Well, while VPNs are great, a VPN is a virtual private network. If you didn't know, it's a good way to cloak yourself, right? To remain anonymous, let's say. But VPNs adds hops. How many hops? How long does it take to get to the server, the gaming server? When you run through a VPN, it ends up being a lot more hops. Also, the VPN is doing things in the background that causes extra latency. You don't want this latency, and I guarantee you if you're running a VPN, you're getting more latency. Now, there's only one caveat to this, is if you're running a VPN that's specific to gaming, like for example, No Lag VPN is one that is specific for playing Call of Duty Warzone. If you're using that VPN, it's okay because you're not adding lag. How they do it, I don't know. It's some type of wizardry, but if you're using that, that is fine. But every other VPN, I don't care what it is, shut it off. You will thank me for it. Now, the next thing is connecting to the closest server. People forget about this and they just let the game pick the server for them. Whatever they think is the best server, it looks through the pings and whatever is the best ping for that second, that's the server that it will connect you to. But maybe it's just for a second and all of a sudden that server is just pinging horribly. So when you go into the servers, instead of allowing the game to just randomly select a server for you, if the game allows you to pick a server that has consistently low ping. Now, sometimes the games will actually show you exactly the geolocation of those servers themselves. Now, you don't want to pick a server that's closest to you. Joe, what the hell are you talking about? You want to pick a server that's closest to your POP. Now, if you don't know what a POP is, it's a point of presence. I did a whole nother video just on POPs and finding out which POP you're currently using, which POP you're on. That's very important here. For example, I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. Now, I have a POP in Miami, but I also have a POP in Georgia. The Georgia POP is about 700 miles away. The one in Miami is only 80 miles away. But for some reason, right now, Starlink just has me connected to the POP in Georgia. I'll talk to you about how to change that also, once again, in another video. Check that playlist, because I talked about this a lot, and it works and it doesn't work. Check it out. Anyways, I'm in Palm Beach. Now, if the server is in Miami, you would think, oh, use that server because I am geolocated closer to Miami than I am to Georgia. The answer to that is no. Use the server that is closer to your POP. My POP, once again, is in Georgia, so I want to use a game server that is up in Georgia. Make sense? Are you starting to get this now? Are you starting to get it? I hope so, guys. I hope so. Has this been helpful, even a little bit? Anyway, so let's move into the actual gaming itself and how do we set this up and what frame rate should we be using? Now, of course, you always want the higher and higher and higher frame rate, and that is exactly true. If you're using 30 FPS instead of 60 FPS, the difference is massive. You'll get a lot better latency with the 60 FPS game in comparison to 30 FPS. So if your monitor or your system can handle 60 FPS, definitely run 60 FPS. That holds true with 144 FPS. Now, the difference between 30 to 60 is massive, while moving from 60 to 144 is a small bump. But that bump is still a bump. So if your system can handle 144 FPS, use it. You're going to get better latency. Now, another thing that a lot of people are doing that they don't even realize they're doing is they're running their game in windowed mode. It looks like it's full screen, but it's really not. You want to make sure the game is running in full screen mode, period. Whenever you window a game, it is going to cause additional latency. Don't do it. Full screen only. So one of the biggest things for us using Starlink to game is we need to monitor. Knowledge is king, guys. Knowledge is king. We need to monitor our pings. Now, FPS as well as latency monitoring inside games is very prevalent. a lot of the games will show you this information. If you don't know how to turn it on, go into the settings and turn it on. You need to monitor not only FPS, but you need to monitor your latency. Latency is most important. That is your ping. Now, for me, I have an NVIDIA graphics card, and with NVIDIA, there comes a GeForce Experience software. You can use a performance overlay just by simply clicking on Alt-R. It will show you a bunch of great information. Your FPS, your latency, your CPU usage or utilization, as well as your GPU utilization. A ton of great information. Now, there's other tools out there that will allow you to put your ping on your screen, which is great. I'm not going to go into all those. You can find them. Now, if you do not have an NVIDIA card or the video card that you're using doesn't have a program like this or an overlay that will show you your latency or your pings, my suggestion is to run a ping test in the background. Now, that's all you have to do is run the MS-DOS application. It will open up a terminal window. In that window, you're going to type ping 8.8.8.8-T or ping 1.1.1.1-T. This is going to ping either Google's DNS server or Cloudflare's DNS server, whichever one you use. Now, while this endless ping is happening, I would take this window and move it onto a secondary monitor so that you can watch this. Now, if you do not have a secondary monitor, I would suggest running this on another laptop, maybe that's on your same network or some other device so that you can watch your ping. Now, if you do not have a secondary monitor or a secondary machine that you can run this on to be able to monitor your latency or monitor your pings, once again, go into your game itself, go into its settings, and in those settings, sometimes in-game, it has the ability to show your FPS and your ping. Once again, your frames per second is not as important as your ping. You need to watch those pings. Bear in mind, you are not pinging the actual game server. You are pinging Google or Cloudflare. So you're not going to get an accurate latency to the game itself. That being said, this information is still critical because you're going to know, is it going down? Is it dropping your service? Sometimes Starlink will drop service for a second, maybe 2 seconds, sometimes up to 15 seconds. Starlink. More satellites, Elon. Anyway, sometimes it will drop service. And knowing that you're losing packets could give you enough time to hide or move into a position not in the open until the spike or this outage is over. This is important so you don't end up dead. So anyways, guys, these are a couple of things that I've done and that I've found helpful when dealing with playing games on Starlink. I don't play a lot on Starlink, but when I do, I want to have the best experience possible. And all of this information that I've given you here hopefully does that. It gives you a better experience playing these games. Also, if you're just not playing games and you are someone that is a businessman that's using this for your Zoom conferences or anything else that you need this data and you need priority, the things that I've outlined in this video will help you out also. Once again, prioritizing yourself and your data over everyone else on your network. It is very important. Once again, I get into a lot of this in those videos that I've put into that playlist, the Starlink playlist. Go check it out. If you've gotten anything out of this video, please throw it a thumbs up. I put a lot of time into this, and once again, I hope you've gotten something out of it. Please subscribe to the channel for more Starlink stuff. I do not only Starlink, but I do photo, video, as well as all tech. So definitely subscribe. There's over 700 videos on this channel to go and peruse through. And if you are subscribed, click this little bell icon over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all, and keep gaming.